Cynthia here from So Casually Chic, and I would like to welcome you to day 4 of the Greenstyle Bomdia Sew Along. If you are still with me on day 4, you are so special and I am so happy you're here. Please leave me a note so I can thank you for being so awesome and following along with this sew along. Before we get started, again, I would like to remind you to grab your Bomdia pattern at 25% off if you haven't already. I think most people have, but just in case you're watching the full sew along, before you get started, grab that pattern. We only have a few days left to do it. Click through my blog, add the pattern to cart, click checkout, and you will get it at a special sew along 25% off. Also, we're running out of time to use that 10% off coupon from Minerva.com. It expires on January 30th, 2022. Make sure to take advantage of that. 10% is a great discount for them. Let's get started on day 4. So today we're doing sleeves, and as you can see, I have a long sleeves on my dress, and this is a special pattern piece that you need to get separately on the website because Angeline graciously drafted this long sleeve specifically for our sew along. She's adding it to the Greenstyle website, and you can grab your copy of the sleeve there. It is a separate pattern piece that you can purchase for free on the website. Today we will be hemming and constructing, basically stitching up the seam of the sleeve, and then we'll be attaching it to the dress. And that is all we do for today, so let's get started. Before we add the sleeves, we'll need to stitch these shoulder seams. They're already lined up together because we've stitched the side seams together. You can pin them, or if you feel real brave, you can just do it without pinning. It's a tiny little seam, so you can probably get away with it. Go ahead and take it to the machine and use a 3/8 inch seam allowance and a stretch stitch. So you'll use your serger or a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, and I'm using my serger today. Stitch those shoulder seams, and I always like to cut off those thread tails. They're a pet peeve of mine. So I'm not actually attaching cap sleeves to this dress, but I want to show you them anyway. You can see here how I've marked the back and the front of my sleeve. It's a good idea to do that before you attach it, because then you can make sure you align the back part of the sleeve to the back part of the dress and the front part of the sleeve to the front part of the dress. I also like to iron a memory hem on the sleeves because to me it's a lot easier to iron it now and have that nice ironed edge before I attach it to the dress. So what I've done is I've marked 1.5 inches up from the bottom edge of the sleeve, and I'm going to iron that nice and crisp. So now that I have that crease ironed, I'll go ahead and pin the sleeves for stitching. And it's just this short little edge on the cap sleeve that we're going to pin and then stitch in the next step. We do the same exact steps for the long sleeve, but it just looks a little different because the sleeve is so long. Now is a good time to double check and make sure you marked the front, back, and center of the sleeve cap. Again, fold up and iron a 3/4 inch hem. I'm not going to bother marking 1.5 inches on this one just because it's so short. Pin along the edge of the sleeve. This edge was much shorter on the cap sleeve. Make sure to unfold that hem. You want the crease there, but you don't want it folded when you stitch. Now we need to stitch those sleeves closed before we attach them to the dress. This is what the cap sleeve will look like. And again, we're going to use a stretch stitch on the sewing machine or a serger stretch stitch, which is what I'm using. And we're just going to stitch up this small little seam. And now for the long sleeve, which is the same exact steps, but it just looks a little different. Stretch stitch or serger with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and this edge is just quite a bit longer because it's going all the way down our arm. Now to attach the sleeve, you'll turn the sleeve right side out and then double check your markings on the inside of the sleeve for your front and back markings. So this is the front, and you can put a single pin on the front marker, then a double pin on the back, and that's just a good way to visualize where the front and back are. Take the dress inside out and put the sleeve in with the hem entering the dress first, and then the arm side seam will enter last. And make sure the seam of the sleeve is facing downward and that the shoulder notch is at the top. Alright, so you'll double check that the front neckline matches up with the front pin on the sleeve and the back neckline matches up with the double notches or the double pins on the back of the sleeve. Alright. Then you'll find the shoulder notch, line it up with the shoulder seam on the sleeve. Find the seam from your side seams where you created that casing, and you'll line that up with the seam on the sleeve. Then just start pinning all the way around. You will need to ease the sleeve in just a bit and work it all out so that it all lines up at the seam allowance. Then you'll stitch all the way around that arm side, and be careful when you stitch that you catch that casing. To attach the sleeve, you'll use a stretch stitch or serger, and I'm using my serger here again, and you'll use a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Double check where that casing is to make sure you caught all layers of fabric in your stitches. Your arm size seam should be smooth with no puckers or gathers or pulling. And the side seam of your dress should line up with the bottom seam of your sleeve. Now it's time to hem those sleeves, and since we ironed the hem before stitching the sleeves, it's really easy to just fold that fabric under. I much prefer to iron those hems when the fabric is flat over ironing it when it's in a round. And here comes Penny, the fluffy tail kitty, to join in the fun. Does anyone else have a kitty who likes to join in the fun? Alright, so use your favorite method for hemming. I am on my cover stitch today, but you can use a zigzag stitch on the sewing machine or a twin needle as well. Just remove the sleeve from the machine and then repeat with the other sleeve. And we're done with day 4, my friends. We have completed our sleeves and are so close to finishing our dresses. Well, how did day 4 go? Please let me know in the comments. I try to answer all questions promptly. And be sure to head on over to the Greenstyle group on Facebook to check in on today's Sew Along post. Just search #BomdiaSAL to find all my posts. I can't wait to hear from you.